When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Hi, I'm John Malice, and welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno on this Friday morning, November the 22nd, 2013, 50 years ago to the day, in fact, to the minute. Shots rang out in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, and the President of the United States was hit while he was riding in his limousine. A special edition of Connect with Me is coming right up. 436 MeTV, option 11.
Guide in our newsroom, and there has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown. We have not been told their condition. At Dallas, in the downtown hotel room, a group had been gathered to hear President Kennedy when he was waiting his arrival.
Walter Cronkite, 50 years ago to the minute almost, when President Kennedy was shot in his limousine in Dealey Plaza in, of course, Dallas, Texas. It took place November 22nd, 1963. We are commemorating, of course, that anniversary today. It's hard to believe that it was 50 years ago to the minute that the president was shot. I was in third grade. My guest today was a young man as well, but today we're going to talk about the impact it had then on the country, the impact it has now. Dennis Hart is my guest.
Good to be
How
back,
are you,
John?
Dennis? Good to see you.
On this
You believe it's
horrendous
been
day of
50 years?
No, I was in the 8th grade at Hamilton Junior High School on a day very much like today. Overcast, chilly, sun trying to break through. Shocking. The seminal event of my life. No one could believe it.
How do you think it changed the country?
For the worse. The country unraveled, its fabric unraveled. I don't think, and we're part of the baby boom generation, I don't think the country has ever recovered from JFK's assassination. Almost everything went wrong after that. Vietnam, the killing of Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, riots in the cities. Almost everything fell apart after JFK was assassinated. It was as if we lost hope in this country and energy.
It's almost like, I've heard this over and over again the last 50 years, the country lost its innocence to a certain extent. Is that phrase or is that term overstated?
Not at all. This was the first assassination we had ever seen on television. We had had 3 other presidents killed by assassins. Hardly anybody remembers that. John Garfield, William McKinley, Abraham Lincoln, of course. Kennedy's was the first that was broadcast virtually live. We were mesmerized by it. It shocked us. Chet Huntley put it on NBC at some point during that weekend. We watched in stunned disbelief. That's the best way to put this. We could not believe what we were seeing. I don't think we can to this moment.
But in a sense, didn't we lose our innocence during World War II more so than during the Kennedy years?
Wasn't a televised war. There was no television then. That was network radio. You didn't see the casualties. You didn't see the fighting until weeks later on newsreels, in theaters, et cetera, et cetera.
Good point.
This was a real-time event from which you could not... Edward P. Morgan on ABC put it, it was like a dream from which you expected to wake up, but you won't. We could not wake up from the nightmare as it happened moment by moment that weekend.
4 consecutive days, uninterrupted television, no commercials.
It was the day television news came of age, grew up in the United States. Until then, we relied on network radio, we relied on newspapers, but television went live, uninterrupted for 72 hours from that Friday afternoon, unparalleled, amazing.
All right, for those who don't know, there was a young man by the name of Abraham Zapruder who showed up at Dealey Plaza that day with his secretary just to watch the president go by in his limousine in Dealey Plaza. And so he took his 8mm camera with him. He stood up on the grassy knoll. His secretary was behind him, holding him on one of those pedestals, and he took maybe the most famous film ever processed in the history of mankind. It's called the Zapruder film. Let's roll that now. We'll take a look at the President Kennedy being shot in the limousine. I want to mention, Dennis, we did take out frame number
313.
313.
Yes, this is the president's limousine coming down Elm Avenue toward the underpass. These are the last seconds of the president's life. He's been shot once there. He's about to be shot the second time right after that. There's Jackie. He's now been shot the second time. She comes out. Clint Hill coming onto the tail of the car, trying to push Mrs. Kennedy back into the car. She's trying to retrieve parts of the president.
Here it is. You can see it frame by frame.
They have just turned from Houston Street to Elm Street. They are coming down toward the underpass. The tragedy is, so many tragedies of this, they were just a few feet from the underpass. If that last shot had missed, he's been shot here the first time. He gets the second shot, which we've edited out because it's too graphic. There she tries to climb on the car. The most famous film in the history of the world, probably. 26.6 seconds of catastrophe.
I know, and it's amazing. 50 years ago, almost to the minute right now, live, that this actually happened. We're showing this film, of course, and that Zapruder film, the FBI confiscated the Zapruder film immediately, of course. They took it into their possession. It stayed in a vault in New York City in the Time Life building for something like maybe 15, 20 years. Nobody saw it until Geraldo
Rivera showed it on a show called Good Night America on ABC, a late night show 13, 14 years later. Nobody had ever seen frame 313, which shows the president being hit with a fatal shot.
Right, it's the impact shot.
It's the impact shot, yes, from the rear, which comes out, and the audience was stunned. He had a live audience that night, and everybody oohed and awed. They had never seen that. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
Were you watching that?
No, I did not see it live. I've seen, of course, many times since then,
Yeah. All right. We're talking with Dennis Hart. He is our guest today, the 50th anniversary of JFK being shot and killed in Dallas, Dealey Plaza. Dennis has actually been there. We'll talk to him about that and some of the events after the break that followed. It wasn't only JFK being shot on that Friday, November 22nd, 1963. It's the events that followed that were so enormously stunning to everybody watching on live television. We're back with our program. Connect with me on MeTV Fresno in just a moment.
Now, why don't you tell us the whole story right from the beginning? All right, from the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
You any idea who the other man was?
My partner's Bill Gannon.
Program?
We got just one big question.
Yeah.
When?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
The events following the shooting on November 22nd, 1963 stunned everybody. Lee Harvey Oswald was paraded around by Dallas police, of course, in front of the media the following day, which was just, I mean, in this day and age, that would never happen.
Right.
But it's all black and white footage. I remember watching this live. Lee Harvey Oswald was the man who was captured the day before. He was the accused assassin of President Kennedy. And the day after, on Saturday, November 23rd, he spoke to the media at police headquarters in Dallas. Here's what Lee Harvey Oswald had to say when he was questioned.
What the situation is about, nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman. I know nothing more than that, and I do request for someone to come forward to give me a legal assistance.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
And Dennis, it got better. I mean, not better, maybe worse, I guess you could say, because the next day he was shot and killed.
Obviously, that interview would never have happened today. And they would not have paraded him around. Dallas police did not.
What were they doing? What happened?
They were trying to make the case. Okay, they had caught the killer, the presumed killer. They had found the weapon. They had found the spent cartridges. They wanted to parade him because it was important for them to show the world that they had solved this heinous crime. Obviously, allowing him to speak to the media would not happen today. And what happened on Sunday, where he's brought down to be transferred and he's shot and killed, the security there clearly wasn't good enough. But everybody was in shock. Understand what happened when the bullets rang out about 50 years ago at this hour. The nation went into shock. You went into shock. I went into shock. nobody really handled things the way perhaps we should have or would have handled it.
Quick call here. Good morning. You're on Connect with me. Your question quickly, please. Whoops. Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, and so as each day passed, the drama became greater.
It was a nightmare that just kept building on itself. You could not believe what you were seeing on television and the events that were unfolding. Oswald was shot on that Sunday morning around 9:30 here on the Pacific Coast. You remember it?
I remember
exactly what
watching.
I was doing.
Yes.
And that was the time when the president's body was being transferred to the Capitol.
Right.
And
at the precise time that Oswald was shot.
Okay.
Right.
And so they put bulletins on the air, crawls, if you will, words on the screen saying Oswald, after we saw Oswald being shot live on television, his death was announced by a crawl because we were watching the president being transported to the Capitol.
I want to show our audience Lee Harvey Oswald at police headquarters in Dallas. They took him underground in a basement to be transferred to the Dallas County Jail. It took place at about 9:20 Sunday morning, California time, on November the 24th, 1963, as it happened on live television. Take a look.
There is the person. There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot. Pandemonium has broken loose here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Now, whether the bullet literally hit Oswald or not, we are not absolutely positive, but there has been a gunshot. Oswald reached for his stomach, doubled up. It'll be impossible to determine whether he was hit or not. Did you see whether or not he was hit? He was hit, wasn't he?
He grabbed himself on the side and fell to the ground.
That was my understanding. We were, 4 feet away from him?
I was 5 feet in front of him when they shot.
What is your name?
Frank Johnson.
And you're with?
UPI.
He did grab his stomach. I saw him grab his stomach.
Right from the side.
Lee Oswald obviously has been shot. The witnesses around us here seem to confirm that. It happened so fast and with such suddenness that you can understand it is virtually impossible to determine the direction from which the bullet came, although police obviously in a rather excited state are attempting to determine where the shot came from.
Phenomenal to see that even 50 years later. That was Tom Pettit of NBC News reporting live from the underground headquarters at Dallas as they were transferring the suspect.
The first time we had ever seen an assassination on television, live on television. Changed television news forever.
How did it change how we cover news?
That can, when you tie in with everything that else that happened starting Friday afternoon in Dallas, it made television news the preeminent, by far, source for news for Americans in this country. People watching that, literally, I was stunned out of my mind. You almost thought it was a cartoon show. This can't possibly be happening. After what happened on Friday, to see Oswald gunned down by Jack Ruby on that Sunday morning, well, I didn't believe what I was seeing. I literally did not believe my eyes. Did you?
No, I did. I was getting ready for church. I was getting dressed in my parents' living room, and I looked up and I heard the shot and all the what we just saw there.
Right,
amazing. Take a quick call here. Good morning. You're on with Dennis Hart. Your quick question, please.
Hi. I was wondering. I was too young to know about JFK, but I do remember when President Reagan was his assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Now, they said on the radio, "Be good, be great," because they were actually alluding to when JFK was killed, people were committing suicide because the president was killed.
Yeah.
I mean, was it really like that back then? I mean, it was just.
It was a lot different.
President.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember people committing suicide, but I was 12, 13 years old when the President Kennedy was killed. I'm sure that people did. I mean, people committed suicide. Remember, in 1938 on the Orson Welles Halloween thing, which they thought people were being invaded. We were being invaded by Martians, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, this was so shocking. Again, remember, until that moment, television news had been nothing. The networks had only gone to 30-minute newscasts 2 months earlier. Television news was nothing.
Quickly, before we go to break, I want to put up the gunshot photo of Jack Ruby moving into that frame. There is the famous shot right there, Dennis. Take a look at that up there on the monitor.
Yep.
Amazing, as Ruby moved in and shot the suspect. And of course, Jack Ruby, we have a photo of him as he was arrested almost immediately after. There he is. That's the Jack Ruby mugshot. And then the actual gun that he used to shoot Lee Harvey Oswald.
Jack Ruby said to be so distraught over President Kennedy's death. He had been a Kennedy supporter. He was a friend of the cops. They allowed him in there. That never would have happened today, but we're talking 50 years ago.
Another call quickly. Your question, please.
Yes, I was a sophomore at Roosevelt High School when Katie was shot. After school, we talked about it, and most of the Mexican people and minorities felt that it was a planned hit because the Kennedys did a lot for the minorities, and he was a Catholic, and a lot of people in America were offended by that. So I think it was a kind of a satire because of prejudice.
Okay. All right.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been, there are conspiracy theorists out there. They started from the very first time we ever saw the Zapruder film. There is no evidence based upon 50 years of investigation by the New York Times, by CBS News, by responsible organizations that anybody other than Oswald was involved. People just don't want to believe that a nothing like Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was a nothing, could assassinate the President of the United States. But remember who assassinated John Garfield, who assassinated William McKinley? Nothing men.
Running long, Dennis. Got to go to break. We're coming back with our show about JFK, the assassination 50 years ago today.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here talking about the JFK assassination. A quick phone call here. Your question quickly, please. We're running short on time.
John, to Dennis, can we also talk about his life or just his death? John,
what about his life?
Okay, my wife and I were talking about dating him, seeing other ladies during his
It happened,
marriage.
yes. It happened.
And that was that number. There's two parts to this question. Did the news know about that? Was that brought up in the news that he was seeing other people?
No.
No, not so much. And then my wife felt their marriage got better after her miscarriage.
That is absolutely correct, as a matter of fact.
Right?
That has been yes, that has been documented.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
The president
That was great.
did have
I'm glad.
mistresses. He did have mistresses. Some reporters knew about it. They felt that it was not in the national interest, didn't affect national security, and they kept that. It probably would not be held today, as we know from President Clinton's experience, etc.
The drama became even greater on that Monday of the funeral. There were two funerals on Monday, of course. He was shot on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, on November the 25th. That was the Monday. John F. Kennedy was laid to rest, and so was the accused assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald. There's no question about it. Let's put up the funeral picture of Lee Harvey Oswald. This took place. Now, let me explain what you're looking at here. There's a reporter, AP reporter. His name is Mike Cochran. He worked for AP back then at the time, 1963. He showed up at the funeral for Lee Harvey Oswald. Here it is right here. And they asked him to be a pallbearer, and he said, "You got to be kidding, no way." Well, there were other reporters there. There were very few people there, and so Cochran gave in, and there he is, one of many reporters carrying the casket of Lee Harvey Oswald. Let's put up the photo of Mike Cochran, the Associated Press reporter. That's him right there today. And then, Dennis, later that day, it was the JFK funeral.
Yeah, and that was the funeral. That was the day that Nielsen reports that 96% of American people were watching television during that funeral. 96%, the highest television audience in the history of the nation. I remember on that Monday, and this was absolutely tragic. There's the caisson, and remember Blackjack, the riderless horse.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the cadence of the tapping. It was just heartbreaking as the service had been held at St. Matthew's Cathedral, and now he's being taken to Arlington Cemetery. And it is absolutely heartbreaking. What I remember is that during the hours that this was on the air, not one car passed our house in our neighborhood. Nobody was outside. Nobody went outside. Everybody watching this, there's just nothing more to say except that we were crying. The nation was crying.
Why is it that I remember this like it happened yesterday?
Because it...
Got to let this video go. Got to let this video go. Look at that shot. Look at that shot.
There were 19 or 20 heads of countries that were walking down Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
President de Gaulle of France, they all came for the funeral.
Why is it that I remember that like it was yesterday? Vivid memories etched in my brain.
This incident is the indelible incident of your life. You were a young kid, as I was, being confronted with the shocking news that the president of the country could be gunned down, television coming of age that day. I remember virtually everything about it. The most heartbreaking picture is still to be shown yet. You've got it coming up.
Yeah, we've got it coming up after the phone call. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Your question quickly, please.
Yes. Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But nothing is mentioned about that. The Secret Service agents partied at his club until 5 a.m. in the morning the day that Kennedy arrived. Plus, Lee Harvey Oswald was never charged with the shooting of the president. He was only charged with shooting the police officer.
Okay, so what?
Why was he never charged? Everybody says
because he was assassinated before he could be charged. Because Oswald was killed before he could be charged.
Right.
Jack Ruby was a friend of the cops. Every cop knew him in Dallas. They came to his club often. It was not unusual for people to be at his club. He owned a nightclub. He was just unfortunately allowed to be in that crowd when Oswald was transferred and lost the opportunity for the country to put Oswald on trial, for the evidence to come out, and for all the conspiracy nuts to go away, because Oswald would have been convicted and we wouldn't have had the conspiracy.
But it is well documented that Jack Ruby was an underworld figure.
He was.
Had mob ties
He did.
to Chicago. He's from Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, but he was distraught over the president's killing.
Yes.
We could sit here and talk about the conspiracy theories all day, but
does
they're
nothing for us.
entitled to that. Yeah. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion.
What it comes down to
we
is...
don't really know.
No, well, we do know, because all the forensic evidence indicates
Right.
Oswald was on that 6th floor, fired that gun. It's been shown he could do it. The bullets would have handled themselves exactly. There's no magic bullet.
Right.
They reacted exactly the way bullets would have reacted. But the point of the matter is people do not want to believe. They simply don't want to believe that, as I come back to, a nothing like Oswald could kill the president. Well, he did. He just did.
We got to wrap it up. Before we go to break, I want to show that JFK Jr. saluting his father back in 1963. Just heartbreaking to see this.
This
John
is the
Jr. on the
indelible
right,
image that I have. This, when people saw this, the networks covered this. They had a picture of him as the casket was coming by. The little boy. This was his 3rd birthday, by the way. The president was buried on his 3rd birthday.
Caroline Kennedy on the left there, 6 years old.
Mrs. Kennedy in the middle there. Robert Kennedy on the right. Ted Kennedy on the left there. And the cameras held that shot for 30 seconds. The camera was shaking because we were all crying. When you saw that, to this day, I have tears in my eyes thinking about that little boy saluting his dad as the casket goes by. It just kills me.
Okay, we're talking JFK, the assassination 50 years ago, to the day, almost to the minute. We're back with our show in a moment.
1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187. Want more of me? Me? Go to MeTVFresno.com for schedules, information on your favorite shows, videos, pictures, and more. Go to MeTVFresno.com today. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.
Back here on Connect with Me, you know, we could talk conspiracy all day.
Yep.
But I just want to get you so we can agree that there are those people who do believe there was a conspiracy. Not only a conspiracy, but maybe a second gunman.
Oh, yeah.
It is possible that could have been a second gunman without a conspiracy.
No, there wasn't a second gunman.
Okay, there wasn't, in your opinion.
No.
But there are those who think
that
there might have been a second gunman.
There are people who believe that Sirhan didn't kill RFK, although everybody in the room
we
saw
that happen
There are
too.
people who believe James Earl Ray didn't kill Martin Luther King. There are always people who are unwilling to believe believe what the evidence shows them simply because they don't want to believe it.
But
I understand
are you
that.
open to the possibility that something else could exist?
Honestly, no. I have studied this for 35 years. I haven't written books on it, conspiracy books. I'm a reporter. I was a reporter for 30. If I thought there was a conspiracy, I'd want to be the first to explore it. But everything points to Lee Harvey Oswald being the lone gunman, and you just have to accept that.
1975, there was an attempt on Gerald Ford's life.
Yeah.
Squeaky Frome.
Yes.
Obviously, there was an attempt on Ronald Reagan's life.
Yes.
Did it conjure up memories of Kennedy when all these events?
Instantaneously. Everything
Really?
since then involving presidents conjures up images of President Kennedy. You know, when I see any president in a crowd, President Kennedy was in a crowd at the Dallas airport that morning and nothing happened. He and Jackie got out of their airplane. They had flown from Fort Worth. And nothing happened. Then they're in this open bubble car. Okay? That would never happen. You would never want to have that happen. And yet here they were driving through the streets of Dallas, a hotbed of irrationality and right-wing hatred, and they were going through the streets of Dallas in an open-ended car, a convertible car.
And who allowed
it was
that?
crazy. Well, the
Secret
Secret
Service.
Service, because it had been raining in Dallas that morning. They had the bubble on. It stopped raining. They pulled it off.
All right. I want to take you back many years to a photo that was taken a long time ago. This on the left is Lee Harvey Oswald in the 2nd grade in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep.
Look at that photo. I don't know who the little girl is, but that is the accused assassin.
The boy
of
who
course.
would grow
The
up to
boy
kill the president.
Grew up to kill the
Yep.
president,
Yep.
of course. Next photo, he grew up to kill that man. The portrait of JFK. It is simply, you know, I don't know why I put those two together, but I just found the correlation to be amazing. Here's Lee Harvey Oswald, a 2nd grader in Fort Worth, Texas, where the assassination took place very close by.
Yes, yes. When John Kennedy died, it comes back to, you've asked me, how did it change the country? I do not believe we've ever recovered to this day. It was, as Jacqueline Kennedy told Teddy White, you know, Camelot, which she referred to as the presidency, Camelot is dead, it won't come back. Absolutely correct. You have not recovered from it. The country has not recovered from his assassination. Just hasn't.
Getting back to television, did it change the way we cover live events?
Changed everything. Television became, again, the preeminent source of news for us instantaneously. It made us leery, if you will, of putting things on live because of what we could see. I mean, that was an accident that Oswald's killing was broadcast. They just happened to cut to it at that instant, et cetera, et cetera.
I remember JFK Jr. saluting his father. I also remember Caroline Kennedy, when his body was lying in state, 6 years old, went to lift the flag up from the coffin so she could touch the coffin and get closer to her father.
That was on the Sunday.
Remember that?
Yes, I do. Jacqueline took her up to the coffin when he was lying in state in the Capitol. That Sunday afternoon. And when she walked up and the little girl walked
She pulled the flag up. Remember that?
You had to cry. That was one of those indelible images you never, ever forget.
All right, the JFK limousine, where is it right now? Dearborn, Michigan. Let's take the photo and put it up on the screen. There it is. You've seen it in person, Dennis?
I have seen it. It's at the Henry Ford Museum. Ford Motor Company. That's a Lincoln Continental, 1961. The bubble top was off when he was going through Dallas.
The actual limousine.
That's
that
the actual
riding in.
limousine. It is on display. You can go see it at the Ford Museum in Dearborn. Ford donated it to the museum in 1978. It's one of those things that when you see it, first time I saw it, I was shocked. I was living in Detroit. I didn't know it was there.
Tears coming down your
sure,
face?
Of course.
Yeah.
You're that close. You get within 5 feet of it.
Yeah. Okay. I was a 3rd grader, elementary school, when the principal came in and said, the president's been shot. A few minutes later, he came in and said, the president is now dead. And the rest of the country heard this from Walter Cronkite of CBS News 50 years ago to the day, today, to the minute.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
You know what I remember thinking at the time? How are we ever going to get over this?
It was as if your world had collapsed. Walter, as you saw, almost lost it right there on the air, almost cried. It has been said that had he cried, the nation might have gone to pieces because he was the preeminent anchorman at that moment. At the instant that he was almost crying, Edwin Newman on NBC Radio said, "It is with the greatest regret that I have to tell you," and he almost cried. Don Gardner of ABC Radio said, "Let us pray." He was crying. They cut off his mic for 10 seconds on the radio network. It was that emotional for all of us. When Cronkite made that, to this moment, I'm choked up watching Walter's announcement.
Dennis, appreciate your time. Always good to see you. We'll see you back here.
Even on a day like this.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, my friend.
I know. Well, that's going to do it for us today here on Connect With Me, our special program to the minute. Almost 50 years ago today, JFK died at 11 o'clock Pacific time on November 22nd, 1963. Have a good weekend. Back here on Monday.
Do you like me?
Just like me.
Like MeTV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.